John chapter 18, verse 28. And so we are now on the Inamal ferry on the way from Dumai to Melaka, that is Indonesia, Dumai, and Melaka in Malaysia. So let's continue with recording then with John chapter 18, verse 28. Then they led Jesus from the house of Caiaphas to the governor's headquarters. It was early morning. They themselves did not enter the governor's headquarters, so they would not be defiled, but could eat the Passover. Right? So they first to Annas, from Annas to Caiaphas, where from the other Gospels we will, when we study them, we will see more what happened there. The one thing that is mentioned in this specific instance was the fact of the of Jesus saying, you can go and ask, I didn't hide anything. For the original readers of this, they would understand this. They would know for a fact. If John wrote this so much later, then go and ask somebody else. They will know. I never said anything in secret. Now, yes, sure. First of all, Jesus did imply that he was not hiding anything. He never did anything in secret. But secondly, as well, that there are the people that they can go and ask. Okay, so if it's later on, then go and ask other people. Yeah, right. It's kind of gone. And the people there at this case would have known it. And the other thing that was ultimately that is important in the saying here, or at least that happened during that specific court case here of Jesus, is the fact that the soldier hit him, and Jesus clearly showed that what he did there was unlawful. So, and no one spoke out against it. So in other words, they were okay with breaking the law so as to get rid of Jesus. So they were okay with defiling themselves actually just before the Passover. And in this verse, all of a sudden here we see, okay, so they take him to the governor's headquarters because ultimately they needed Pilate's stamp on a crucifixion, not just a stoning. And it states as well the time of day. It was early in the morning. Remember, Jesus hasn't slept yet. From the Last Supper to the garden, to Annas, to Caiaphas, now to Pilate. And then it states that they didn't enter the headquarters of the governor. Why? Because they did not want to be defiled. So they could eat in the Passover. So here all of a sudden, okay, now we're not going to go in there because we want to take part of that. But just before this, they did break the law. So again, they actually had no qualms about breaking the law when it fits them. But now they need to keep up. But remember, there it was like no one could see it and they could not speak about it. But in this case, others would see. Okay, so what is seen, we need to then keep up appearances. It's a bit like when we were in Bali, the taxi driver said that he has that they are not allowed to eat beef, and so some of the holy people there in the Hindus, they're not allowed to eat beef. But sometimes they prepare beef and they give them beef to eat, but then they just tell them no, it's lamb or something like that, right? Which they're allowed to eat, and then it's fine. They eat it and nothing happens to them. Or a bit like in Thailand now, the Buddhists, the people locals on the pink taxis will write that this is not pink, right? Because pink is a bad color kind of idea. And or how my aunt would give my grandfather sheep mutton to eat, and he didn't like it, and then she would just tell him, but it's not mutton, it's beef or something like that, and it will be fine. Okay, so a bit here what you don't know kind of. Okay, so, but if people would see, then we need to keep up appearances. But if they're not going to know, then it's fine. Then we can break the law. So it just shows that they didn't really care about the law at all. They only cared about appearances. Verse 29. Yeah, but I mean, verse 29. So Pilate went outside to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" Okay, so Pilate had no choice. All of this happened. I mean, he would have been informed of this. They could not take the soldiers without ultimately his knowledge. Okay, so he then now to doing the kind of right thing in the culture, although Pilate didn't always do the right thing. Pilate didn't always care so much about doing the right thing towards the Jews or not. But now in this case, at least he's coming down to their level. So he goes out and they're asking him, so what is the case that you bring against this man? So what? Verse 13. They answered him, if this man were not doing evil, we would not have delivered him over to you. So their question is, or their answer is a counter question. A counter question of, Pilate, why do you ask accusations, right? You know, if this guy did not do something bad, we would not have brought him here. You just need to trust us. Now that won't go very well in a court case, right? You just trust us. Don't care about my word, you just trust us, kind of idea. But this is what they're getting at. They did not want to go into a lengthy discussion because they had really nothing to say here. Okay, so the whole court case, basically, the case against Jesus was on Pilate, you know us, trust us, kind of idea, right? That does not really go very well, and Pilate's not going to fall for that one immediately. Okay, so yeah, according to them, he did something evil, and therefore they are there. And therefore they brought him. Otherwise they would not have. Verse 31. Pilate said to them, take him yourselves and judge him by your own law. The Jews said to him, it's not lawful for us to put anyone to death. So Pilate did not fall for that one. So, and I think he most likely saw through the whole program. He did not want this to get involved, that others will blame him, or somebody from Rome may, for some other reason, blame him something. No, they do it. They sort it out. That's good. You can always he had nothing to do with this. And on the other hand, as well, he most likely heard enough about Jesus, knew enough about Jesus and about the Jews that he understood that, this is not a normal case for them. There were other messiahs as well, but the Jews did not come to Pilate to try and get those guys executed by crucifixion. Okay, in this case it did. So there is clearly more at play here, and Pilate understood this. So as well, for that reason, he did not want to. Maybe he thought that if he just leave it to them to do it, they will sort of, this is not really the way we want to do it. It's not brutal enough, and so we're not going to do it. Maybe not. It could have been a way for him to try and get Jesus off. We don't exactly consider. There can be a number of reasons why ultimately he said this, and his understanding. But they didn't fall for that one, like in the previous case where they said, no, if he didn't do evil, trust us. Therefore he's here, kind of. And in this case, we're not allowed to put people to death. Now, yes, by law, by the Roman law, they were not allowed to put people to death. Did that stop them? No, it did not stop them. Earlier in John, the story of the woman taken in adultery, they wanted to stone her. Now, Jesus could have just said, you know what, the Roman law says that you're not allowed to stone anyone, so therefore go your separate ways. He did not do that because he knew that they didn't really care about that law. When they wanted to, they did. And we're going to see an example of that in a couple of less than a couple of months later. Well, actually, maybe about 2 months later, when they're going to stone Stephen. That's unlawful. Did it stop them? No, it did not stop them. They went out and they stoned him, right? So, yes, according to the law, they were not allowed. Did that stop them from breaking the law? No, it did not stop them from breaking the law. So they're just lying. Verse 32. This was to fulfill the word that Jesus had spoken to show, but what kind of death he was going to die. So this, oh no, we can't kill him by stoning, right? We're not, because then ultimately Pilate needs to be the one to get rid of him, right? To crucify him. And that is the way they wanted Jesus to die. Out in the open where everyone they could make in front of people fun of Jesus, other people could make fun of Jesus. Jesus could be laughed at so that no one will worship. They would think, okay, but we can't worship. Just think if we were going to worship someone that died on the cross, everybody will think we are mad. So, right, that was their intention. They did not want to make a Messiah out of him. Well, he was the Messiah. Okay? So, ultimately, it's not going to work, play out the way they wanted to. But then in this verse, just their answer was just ultimately in reaction to what Jesus said, the kind of death he's going to die. To Nicodemus, he said, the snake being lifted up, he will be lifted up, right? It was a clear sign, and it was spoken by Jesus, and he knew this is, and then therefore in them saying this way, yeah, this is the only way ultimately that he's then going to die. So it is a fulfillment of those words of Jesus.